Yes.
This is training ground. You asked for it, you get it. Ryu and I will rip your photos into smithereens. Hold on to your headphones. Here comes the pain.
I'm listening to my daughter running around, and I'm just afraid that I'm listening to her running around, and she's dropping me money right now. So thank God, because this money will go towards Patreon and Training Ground and Big Lens Fast Shutter. So if you haven't yet given us any money for Patreon, my daughter has. Please go to patreon.com/BLFS, and that is patreon.com/BLFS. So it was my birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, me. It wasn't Matt. It's not really Matt's birthday today either. So it's not we can really celebrate anyone's birthday, but we shall celebrate the crapicity of the photos that are here on Training Ground. Hopefully not all of them crap, but usually most of them are. So let's kick off this wonderful, wonderful Friday afternoon with Kevin Sosa. By the way, if you haven't actually followed him on Instagram, you really should, because it's really he's really he's really, 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 really good. He's been doing a very, very good job, and I think he's really stepped up. And you agree?
I do agree. I think he's a little bit too fixated on goalies and nets.
Yeah, it's a bit these days, which is quite funny because I actually had a brief conversation with my wife. I just shot my first professional match for this particular season, this season, and she looked at my picture and said, "Oh, it's very, very you." And that's probably not a very, very good thing, because I don't want to have this kind of signature thing. I kind of want to keep on developing this different things. So I'm gonna start trying to experiment with different types of lens and things like that as well. And it's probably going to be said for a lot of photographers on Big Lens Fast Shutter, especially on Training Ground, to not get too fixated on certain things, because you want to be a bit more flexible, you want to try different things and whatnot. So without further ado, and Doris banging, I'm really, really sorry about this. She's running amok. It's Kevin Sosa, and I realized it was actually a reflection. I wouldn't have really recognized it was a reflection until I actually really, really had a look at this picture. And for me, nice try, but it doesn't work for me.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think that here's what I think about this picture. I think that this was somebody who's paying attention and who recognizes that whatever's going on in this game is fine and all, but it doesn't have to be every picture. I like that he looked around and figured this out. I like that it's subtle. I like that I saw it right away, because that's kind of how my brain works. I just saw the void in there and my eye was drawn right to it. The only thing I would say is that those guys probably stood there the whole time. You don't the pictures that aren't the game action. You don't only have to take non-game action pictures when there's no game action going on. So I guess the shorter way of saying that is look around. You can look around during the play. You can take a play off and shoot something else. This picture, I think, would have been better if the players had been arranged differently on the ice. When they're just all huddled around the goal like that, and then the two guys on the blue line or something, it's less visually interesting than if there had been some kind of breakout and all the players had been arranged along the ice. So you're breaking up the white ice with the players. That would have balanced this picture out more, so that it's not just that long white strip at the bottom. That's the difference between an interesting picture and a great picture, I think. And so if you had those two shadow reflections at the top and then the players arranged along the ice, I think that really would have been a great picture. And I just think that this, if you're not, I don't know, crazy like I am, and you don't see those two shadows right away, what you do see is a strip of ice and some players doing something that's not very interesting. And you may not even, your brain might not even take you up to where those guys are.
No. That's
So
exactly my point. I think it just
right,
does
but
nothing.
if the players were arranged better, then you have the dark background with the lights arranged side to side, and then you would have the white background with the dark players arranged side to side.
Mm,
That would be interesting enough to, to at least see the whole picture.
yeah, but I just think it's a bit too subtle, like it's too subtle. And like, had I not like, and it's really like in first glance for me, it didn't even look like human beings. I just thought of the blob, and I was like, oh yeah, there's two people there. So to me, it has to be a bit more obvious. And
I think the
like,
other thing, again, and this is like not a photography thing, but this is hockey. The hockey culture in Canada is really like the scout is like a big deal. It's like a revered kind of position in the hockey lifestyle. And so getting a picture of them that's like integrated into the game or whatever, that is kind of a big deal. It doesn't make the picture any better, but it definitely would make the picture resonate more in, for hockey people than it would for other people. So
yeah, I guess we have to kind of just disagree on this one. Like, it's
yeah.
just me if it doesn't work. For some people, it might work, like Matt. So we move on. Ugh, no,
Yeah,
it's just a dirty wheel to me.
right.
Gotta be something more happening than this.
You have to like the angle of these things matters, and this is only a tiny little bit better than if you had been standing up and shooting down on it. In fact, if you had been standing up and shooting down on it in like a, like an angle, like a really shallow angle towards the wheels or something, that might have been a better picture because then there would have been like some depth of field going on. You don't want to take pictures that end up looking like somebody could have taken them with their phone. And what this looks like to me is a spectator, was walking by where the bikes were parked or something like that, and this is what would happen if they took out their phone and took a picture of it. You need to, like, this bike wasn't going anywhere. It was, it was just standing there, right, for at least a little bit of time. When you approach something like this and your brain tells you, okay, this isn't something that most people see. Like, most people, when they see a bike, it's just somebody's cruising or commuting to work, or a bike is parked or something like that, and it's relatively clean. And you're, as somebody who shoots cyclocross, your brain tells you, okay, this isn't something that people see. And there's grass and mud and there is caked all in there. Walk around. Like, when you can take this picture as you're like approaching it, and you can say, okay, but this is never going to be enough. Like, you need to walk around, look at it from different angles, try to figure out, like, okay, this is the lens that I have on and this is what I could do. Is it a wide angle lens and I want to shoot through and get some more depth in the picture where I can see what's going on behind it? Or do I have like a 85 1.4 on, and what I want to do with this is have the shallowest depth of field possible. But you need to walk around and look at it from different angles and figure all that stuff out. This picture to me is like focusing your brain on that there is something there, but then not following through on what the promise of it is. Like, there are a million interesting pictures that
Oh,
could have
you
been made
totally
of
can
something like
with
this.
this.
This
Yeah.
is a snapshot, and it's nothing more than what somebody with a camera phone could have done with this. And you, as somebody who sees this, need to think about, how can I make something like this interesting, not beyond, like, not just this is a wheel that's covered with mud and grass, but how can I put my style into this picture? How can I take what's there and make it mine, instead of just whatever somebody who was walking by who didn't even know anything about cyclocross? Like, that's my whole point, is that a spectator who never saw this would also think this was visually interesting. They might not understand why, but they wouldn't look for a picture. They would just take out their phone, take a quick snapshot, and then go watch the rest of the race. You need to be better than that. You need to be thinking more than that, and you need to be able to try more things than that.
And I think a lot of people do this, that they just kind of see and see the whatever actions happening, whatever scenery is, and they just take a picture. And I understand, like, if it's one of those things that it's a moving thing, it's an action thing, like you have to take a picture. Then yeah, your gut reaction and your immediate reaction should be you want to take a picture at that moment. But if it's something like this, it's stationary, it's not moving, it's not going anywhere, you have a lot of time to think about it. And to me, this is a really shitty picture, and it's from person like Ninley. He should be doing a lot better,
I mean,
on this
even
type of
yeah,
stuff.
I mean, even like looking at this picture, like it's not like if you were trying to do something super geometric and centered and he's not even square up to the hub of it. It's off angle from even the hub if you were just trying to do like a structural kind of picture. So then that ends up like adding a layer of sloppiness on top of it. And I don't know, it's like Ryu was saying, there are fleeting moments where you just have to shoot as quickly as you can and hope that your experience and your training and all the pictures you've taken before will help you get a good picture of that fleeting moment. But something like this, I mean, you just you have to look at it from a whole bunch of different angles, and then it'll be like a game of, what's that game where it's like hotter or colder or something like that, and you're getting warmer or something. Like your brain will tell you, okay, as I move towards the treads or something like that, I'm getting warmer. Okay, yes, this is the picture. Like you need to put yourself into that situation, and this just doesn't look like you even tried that.
No. Jim Somers Photography. As the de facto residence expert in rodeo photography, yeah, I think this is really shitty. And it looks like it's cropped as well, no? Or you think it's like really just like high ISO on top of, like, just everything about it?
It was probably dark. I don't know if it's cropped. I mean, like, I look at this picture and I definitely see this looks like a picture that I took like 10 years ago. And what I mean by that is not really understanding what's happening and shooting with a lens that's probably too long for the arena that you're in, and given which way the horses and bulls are going to go. So the problem with it is that it's cut off at odd places. Like you don't want to cut him off a little bit below the knee, and then cutting off the horse's tail, but then there's all that empty space in the upper left. You can do a tight picture, but it has to make sense. Like if it was, if you were head on and you cut the horse off at the eyes, but you got the rider's spurs and his hand and his whole body from the front or something like that, that would be one thing. If his knees were bent and his his whole body was more compact and you had all of him in that would be fine. If you were so tight that you just had like a good expression on his face and his hand going behind him, that would be fine. But you've kind of middled it here, and so the horse isn't kicking, you don't have the rider's full legs, and you have all this empty space, and all those things combine into, to me, it just feels like you had too long of a lens from where you are, and it ends up being not just not that visually pleasing to me.
It's a bit like, it's a bit half-assed in a way that it's not wide enough, it's not long enough, and it's really cut off in the really odd, like the legs are cut off and the tail's cut off. And it's not like they have to be in. If you're gonna cut stuff off, then you have to go really, really, really much longer than this, so you get specific parts of things, maybe like that, whatever the stringy thing that's kind of flying in front of him, or just the tail, or just like his face, or just his fingertips or whatnot. You cannot do this in this context, because if you look at it, there's like, you just kind of wonder like why things are cut off. That's the first thing I noticed. Like, why are so many things cut off?
Yeah,
and that should not
that's
be
what
the
it is.
case.
That's exactly when you have something that things are cut off, then they have to make sense. And if they don't make sense, then the viewer is like, well, how come I can't see more of this? You know, and the opposite of that is how come there's not more detail in his face and his hand and his shirt? This looks like a really tough kind of, the lighting is bad. It's not just low, but it's also off color. So the whole, the color of this is yellow. Um, it's this, yeah, it's ISO 12,800, which
Yeah.
um, scroll back. What camera is this? D5. Yeah, well, it should be able to handle that. So it's like underexposed, um, and that's what's making it grainier, I guess.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, the color's off, and it's just not arranged well in the frame. Like look at the upper left and look at how much empty space is there, and it's not at all helping. Like even if he had been cut off, but he had been parallel to the top and bottom of the frame, and you had been able to crop it to that point, like that would have been infinitely better than this. But having him at an angle like that and leaving all that extra space at the top is, then when you see all that extra space, that's when you start asking the questions of why is this cut off where it is, and then that leads you to he was shooting too close with too long of a lens for the size of the arena.
Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, but this is a better picture than the other one. Like this is what I was talking about before, where he's bunched up, and the hat's in the frame, and you can see him actually spurring, and there's a good look on his face, and the chaps are flying. It's not a great execution of it because again, the lighting sucks and the
But the
color's
horse's
off.
head is
Right,
off for me is so.
right.
For me, it's even worse because it looks
Well,
so weird, you know?
right, but if you like, let's say that you didn't need the hat in there and you just cropped it to to his feet and to his hand or something like that. That picture as a detail picture is totally fine.
Yeah.
Again, he middled it here to keep the hat in, and so that's always there. You're going to be faced with decisions like this. Like, do you need to? Is that hat enough to justify having the neck of the horse but not the head of the horse?
Yeah.
Or do you just want to have a detail of the rider actually spurring? And there's enough here. Like it's not a great picture again because of the low light and the color being off. But I have pictures like this, and I have pictures like this that I'm happy with. But the difference is that you need to say, okay, the leather on the chaps, the look on his face, and him actually having the spur into the horse right here is more important than cropping it wider to leave the hat in. The hat isn't the picture. The hat is a detail if the rest of the picture helped it, but the rest of the picture is hurting it this way.
Mm.
So, if you want to build on something, build on being tight to the rider, because at that point you're cutting the horse off in a way that you're just saying, okay, yes, he's on a horse, but the horse isn't part of the picture. It's just the rider, his spurs, his chaps, his hand, and his face. That's the most important part. That's fine. Then go out and make that picture the next time. Don't worry about the hat. Don't worry about cropping it. Less of the horse is better at that, because adding a couple extra inches of having the horse in the picture doesn't get you anything, because you're still not going to get the horse's head in any kind of way that's
Yeah.
not looking awkward.
I mean, I like to see it. It's just, it's not good. I find it just so strange. I mean, the thing is, like, what I really want people to really understand is that why it's bad. Like, we're saying all these things, but you have to also see it, because if we say something, and if you don't see it that way, then there's really no point, And it's like, if it's me, myself and Matt, we're just looking at this and we see it immediately. That means that in most cases, people are going to really wonder, like, what the fuck is going on, Like, why are certain things cut off and why are certain things really, really odd? And you have to also see that as well. And it's very, very important that you're really your worst, I guess your worst or the worst critic, that you can possibly be. Because editing starts with you, I like this.
Yeah.
It's got a certain, feel to it. So I don't really. I mean, I don't like love it, but I don't really mind.
Yeah, I think this is good. I think I would have
I don't know if they're celebrating or not, but it doesn't even matter. Like I think the guy
no,
on
no,
the right
no,
really kind of
no.
makes the whole thing.
This is to the point where I'm more concerned with how the processing is than the actual picture. I think the picture is totally fine. I would have done more to, I guess, contrast, like, bring up the shadows and then increase the contrast a little bit to make it a little bit like crisper.
Mm,
That's all. Other than that, I think it's totally fine. I think it's actually cool because of how it's just the sky in the background, and that there's two people in it and they have different different reactions. I think that's
yeah,
really
it's fine. No,
no.
just a ball. Like we've seen it thousands and billions of times before. If you go on
Yeah,
Instagram and like type in
if you're
ball,
gonna
you'll
have
get this
if you're gonna have a detail of a ball, there really needs to be something
blood on it or something.
there needs to be something extraordinary going on, whether it's somebody sliding into it in grass and dirt flying around, or somebody's unconscious head or something like that in there. But I don't want to see pictures of just a ball.
Um. Yeah. No. The thing is like I don't think it's even in focus.
It's not. It's a fisheye, and the focus just goes to the back.
Yeah. And you can't. And the picture itself is not very interesting because of the fact that like with these things it's a bit of a balance, like you have to see when you see a picture like this, just because the person's idea doesn't make it immediately into a good picture. You have to really see it and see whether or not, for instance, like the arms are right, because the legs are okay, but the arms for me it doesn't really look good at all. And
Well,
so
the arms and the body going away, and being behind the skis and behind the legs, it's just going the wrong way. Like, what you would want is his feet to be where they are and his body to be extending up and to the right, like towards where the chairlift is. And because it's just going straight back, it's just less aesthetically pleasing than it would be. Like, it's the idea of it is good. I mean, you have all the trees and the mountains in the background, and then the lines from the chairlift and the people on the lift like looking at it. But you just that guy, the trick that guy was doing at that point wasn't good enough.
no.
Not good enough like as a ski jump, good enough for the picture.
Hmm.
The thing of it is, though, like, if you're given, this is a gift, like this kind of lighting against the background like that, and even those windows back there, that's a gift. And this is only interesting like if this picture had been at a regular track and it was at night and it was just lit by the stadium lights or something like that, it'd be boring as shit. So it is, yes, more interesting because of how the light is hitting him and not hitting the background and not really hitting the guy behind him. Yeah, that's all true. But he still has to be doing something cool for it to make a picture. So when you see light like this, and I've said this a million times, you really need to stop what you're doing. Stop trying to make regular kind of action pictures or something like that and use the light, because it's so rare that you get a chance to do this. And if it's not rare, if you get to shoot, at this track all the time and at this time of day or something like that, then you have all the action pictures that you need already, and you should be shooting no action pictures and trying to figure out how can I use this light to my advantage to get pictures that nobody else is going to have. Like, this is rare. This is super rare. And when you just make a regular action picture with great lighting, that's all it is. This is a boring ass picture with great lighting in it. And what that says is you didn't recognize the situation was more important to use the lighting than it was to get an action picture.
Yeah, it's a shame, huh? It really is. I mean, like, I was even thinking, like, if it's just that guy, it was framed exactly this way, and if the guy in the back wasn't there, I would say it's fine. because of the lighting
No,
and because of
no,
like
no,
the windows,
so
I say that's
boring.
fine. Other things,
So
is,
boring.
huh?
So
Yeah,
boring.
I'm fine with that. Like I think I like the kind of simplicity in that one. You can see the guy who's actually running, even though he's not doing anything extraordinary. I think the muscle tones, everything I like, and the windows and light, I think would have been okay. But it's just that for me, the guy in the back really just knocks it out of the park in a really bad way. And man, like, and it's a track as well. I'm assuming, right?
I think
And
that's I don't want to I really disagree because I don't want to give the impression that if you because you could very easily like let's do a thought experiment. You the way he is right there, you could totally Photoshop him out of there. It's just a black background. It'd be the easiest thing. Even somebody like me who doesn't know how to use Photoshop could Photoshop this guy out of this picture. It's still not good.
hmm, that was a shame, huh? But it's also like if it's a track, is you could have actually done this like so many different times and try to
Yeah.
figure out the best composition and everything because you just basically have to stand there.
This should when you see light like this in a background like this, an alarm should be going off in your head. Like that's for me, like my blood pressure goes up when I see light like that. And
Oh
I
my
say,
god.
this is a whole different thing, no matter what I'm there for, no matter if I'm on assignment or if I'm trying to do something for myself or something like that, all of that shit goes out the window because of how rare light like that is. You have to take advantage of it. And the reason why I don't care about throwing everything out the window is because whatever anybody wanted or whatever I wanted, it's going to be better if you can figure out a way to use that light. Like whatever it is, it's still going to be better and they're going to be happier with you that you figured out something better than that. So use that, like pretend it's an alarm going off in your head that's telling you get out of here and go figure out how to take advantage of the light.
It's also about Anatoly, this one, and this is not good. It's a very boring picture.
The only thing you have here is the expression on his face, and that's not even good
Yeah.
enough.
I mean, like it's one of those things that like you have to, like what Matt said before, that if you're kind of like an expert at a certain, certain weather condition or a certain sport or whatnot, you do get a bit too kind of complacent in a way that like you think what you see is what other people see all the time. And that's not the case. Like for instance, like something like that, you see just stairs covered in ice. It's not something you see all the time. So why not actually try to find a way that you can combine, for instance, like that sparse looking background with the trees and everything, ice, the stairs, and the wheels. There's a lot of things you can do with it. So you have to like take yourself out and ask yourself, like, what's really interesting about it? And sometimes it's not really, the writer, and sometimes it's not even the race itself, or sometimes just be the actual environment surrounding the whole thing, and you can actually like make something out of it. Could you actually have like shot from the top of the stairs, from the bottom of the stairs, from the side? Because like I think you're doing the whole 3/4 thing. This doesn't really work at all, and it's just like a really boring picture that anyone could have actually shot. So there's nothing interesting, nothing imaginative, nothing, and it's a very bad thing. And you didn't like how it was light in this one, so no can do. It's the background's too noisy, and that kills it for me.
It's not that it's too noisy; it's that it doesn't contrast enough the from the skier. Like he's wearing olive pants and the trees are green and it just kind of melts. It melts him in the background. Like if there had been different lighting on him than there was in the background, that would be fine. If he was wearing like let's say he was wearing a bright color and he was against more, like if he had been a little bit lower, and so if he had been wearing like a highlighter yellow outfit or something like that, he would have popped off the branches of the tree or something. That would be fine. But you have to, light is a recurring theme today. People aren't using the light that they have and they're not paying attention to the light that they don't have, or it's too dark. Like all of these things really tie together. Like the thing that's been wrong most of these pictures has been the lighting, and this is just flat So if you have somebody who's the lighting is flat, so if you have flat colors, the same pants and a mostly dark top against the trees in the background, it's not gonna jump out at you at all. So what can you do? Safety, I don't know, but I would have been below here, and because if you're shooting him against the white sky, and then you have some of the trees in the background, then that's more, you're using the separation of everything a lot better than you are here. Here, he just blends into the background.
Yeah. Oof. Or you can go and cut trees, Alvaro Campo. The most interesting thing that's happening over here is the guy jumping into the edge, and the rest is really, really boring. Players coming onto the pitch, it's something that happens every single match. Some players do interesting things, and usually it has to be kind of like in that context of, you're gonna have to like kind of involve that particular player doing something interesting to make it very, very interesting, or you kind of zoom in on that player. So you're putting him in part of the entire group so he really stands out, or you just concentrate on him actually doing something interesting. It's either or.
Yeah.
And in this case, it doesn't it's just nothing. It's good. It's really bad.
Like looking at this, and again, you don't know. I'm sure he couldn't have been right next to number 7, but that's where I would have tried to have been.
No, probably not. I don't think you can be next one.
If you have that guy really big in the frame, and then the rest of the team's walking out on the field, then that's one thing. If you are able to get an angle on 24 jumping with just the guys in white in the background, then that's something. But as it is a visual mess. And, honestly, having all those empty seats in the background doesn't help either.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, but if you go to the match again, they're going to be doing exactly the same thing. So, unless I have no idea if that's the red team is Oviedo or Numancia, but if it's, the home team is Oviedo, then you can just go again and shoot the whole thing, because the number 24 is going to do exactly that. Moving on to David Hewison with his head chopped off.
Boom.
My daughter's.
Yeah.
And this, to me, and you have to think this is weird all the time. Like if there's something cut and that really screams like, "Hey, look at me," because the eyes go directly there more than anything else. My eyes went first to the wheel that's actually off the asphalt, and after that, so and it went out right after that to the guy's helmet, which is cut off, and it's a no-no,
Yeah, and again, the wheel being off the ground, it happens 1,000 times in a race. Like if there's 15 or 20 guys and they're going 30 or 40 laps or something like that, everyone is doing it every lap.
Yeah.
It's not enough. It's that like you have to put it out of your head that getting a picture of a bike going at speed and lifting it's not enough. It's never enough. It's just this is just part of the race, and unless he's doing like a full-on bike perpendicular to the ground wheelie or something like that, it's not enough. Or if both wheels are going off the ground because he's jumping over something, then then we can talk maybe. But one wheel 8 inches off the ground, not enough at all.
No, not at all. No, it really isn't.
And again, the head part, if there hadn't been all the space around it, the balance of these pictures is important. That extra bit of the white line at the bottom and all the extra pavement or whatever doesn't help. If you had been really cropped into where the tires are and it was just like a really tight kind of detail portrait, then again, we could talk about it. When you have a lot of space around every element of the picture and one part of it is cut off, that screams, "Look at me." And it certainly doesn't help that his helmet has, the fluorescent yellow on it, because that's even more drawing your eye to it. So think about balance, think about how you're arranging things in the frame. And if parts of each element are coming out, then, you know, there might be something there. Like you were so close so that you could get the details, but still show that he was on a motorcycle or whatever. That's all fine, but you can't have space around everything and then cut his helmet off like that. It's out of balance. The whole thing is out of balance.
Yeah, but even if it's not cut, then I still find it a very boring piece because you see these things
absolutely
every single time.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Well, not same thing. Like I find it boring. Like it's
yeah.
Motorsport really is. I mean, it's not an easy thing at all. Like I've never shot it, but I'm looking at like
it's very difficult because the bottom line is that you can't get as close to where you want to be because of safety, and you're shooting most of the time over a barricade so that you can't, you know, even if you do have a good position, it's still too high. Like you would want to be shooting at ground level, but you're 4 feet up or 6 feet up or something like that. Like providing bad angles and being too far away is not good. But the thing is that when I shoot motorsports, I go for the whole time. So usually it's like a day or two of qualifying and then the actual race. And it gives you time during the qualifying to figure all this out. Like where in the track that I go to, they give you like a diagram of this is where the sun's going to be at this time, and then you can look at the positions that are advantageous for that lighting, and then it'll say, okay, and then as it goes into the afternoon, this is the direction the sun's. So you want to keep all of that in mind as you're doing it, to use the light and to use the positions for how they're really supposed to be used. But you have to try different things, because this is fine if it was your first trip to the track or whatever, you're just trying to get used to the shooting and the noise and the speed and all of that. But in general, this is super, super boring. Like it just does not matter if you matched the panning speed of the car and that you blurred out a lot of the background. Like that's all fine, but it's not interesting. And even that, it's like not slow enough to really blur out the background. So back to the drawing board on these for sure.
Yeah, I know. Like we did on the previous podcast, or was it one before or two before? Was it one before? We did the whole thing on this quite famous motorsport photographer, right? Was it last podcast, right? Wasn't it? Yeah, I think it was. I'm quite sure it was. Remember. And yeah, go check out his work. And I think this more than any other sports photography, this is something you probably should look at how other like the top people are doing. So you have a look of like what they've accomplished through their lens and camera and everything else. So have a look and see the episode that's on right now on biglens-shutter.com.
This is when you're shooting something like this is where you have to change something about what you're doing. Ryu at the beginning of this was talking about how his pictures were beginning to look so much the same that his wife commented on it. My wife has definitely done that. Change the rules. Change either from shoot from a different position. Rent a lens. Take something completely different. Like again, I say this so many times. It should be it should be like the first thing you go to if your pictures are boring. Change the gear, rent a lens. Like before I had as many lenses as I do now, I would rent something. Like if I knew I was going somewhere where it was going to be super challenging, I would rent something. And I've shot sports with old manual focus lenses, with portrait lenses, with wide angle lenses that you would never think to bring, fish eyes. Like these are things that will at least get you making pictures that look more interesting. Whether or not they work, whatever, the picture will be more visually interesting, and you will see things that you wouldn't have seen otherwise, and you may be able to get great pictures that you wouldn't have otherwise if you were just shooting with the standard gear that you have. And it's really not that expensive to rent gear for a weekend.
Yeah, it's good. I wish, if I want to nitpick, I wish the right foot was a bit more visible, and the left foot I could actually see more of the sole of the foot. But in essence, I'm absolutely fine with this one.
Yeah, I would prefer a little bit lower. I would want to see more of the lines and more of the feet.
It has to be like it could have been like the composition could have been completely different. It could have been portrait as well. If you step back a bit more, you can get the whole
Yeah.
thing in. Yeah.
And don't be afraid, like the part of this is like you're shooting and you see it as um real shallow depth of field. You don't always have to shoot at the maximum for a picture like this. Like having the feet be, you don't want it, we're not shooting at f8 here. You don't want the whole picture to be in focus, but having a little bit more of like a transition. So if you look at where it's focused, it's like on the middle of the starting blocks. I think like that you can see the number 8. Like this is a good focus test, right? For your camera. It's like shooting a ruler and you figure out like which number is sharpest, and then if your camera is aligned properly. So if you look at the track, from where the track is in focus to where it goes out of focus, it drops off like almost immediately, right?
Mm.
It would be okay if you shot this at a little bit higher of an f-stop, so that transition would have gone from the track being completely in focus to out of focus, like on a longer like the transition would have been longer, and I think that would have helped if the it would have, the feet would have been a little bit more in focus, but definitely still out of focus. Because what you're saying really is that the number 8 on those starting blocks is the most interesting thing in the picture, because it's literally the only thing that's really, really in focus. So I would do this again. I think Ryu's idea of it being in portrait is a good idea. Maybe a little bit lower, and then maybe with a little bit higher of an f-stop. And I have to think that would be not in, again, average people looking at this or something like that, it would make absolutely no difference to them, but to us it would. And to people that are looking at it, an editor or buyer or something like that, I think that might make a little bit of a difference.
Just because you're trying to converge it black and white doesn't make it an interesting picture, like really, at all. So, no. I mean, like, it's really interesting because like the person who came up with the previous picture, which I thought was very interesting,
Yeah,
which we both did, can come up with this, and this is not interesting at all. It's just number 3 and some white dude's, feet. And that's it.
And again, I think the difference between being on your knees and being on your stomach is a really big deal. I think that this would have it wouldn't have been as interesting as the one before, but if you had been completely on the ground and number 3 was taking up the whole frame and you were shooting his shoes from shoe level, I think it would be more interesting than that.
Yeah. It's well lit. That's as far as it goes for me. Yeah. It's one of those shots that we see all the time. I think it's very, very. I think he used the strobe for this one, right?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's the case with this one. The lake view and the Vikings. Anyway, it's boring. It's a boring shot, and I have nothing else to go beyond that. It's just
it's it is boring. Yeah, shooting high school basketball is tough. And using strobes like this, like your technique is, that's you have them set up properly. You have a little bit of the ghosting from having to shoot at 200th or 250th or whatever. So I forget, it's been so long since I did this, but I think you need to drop the ISO? No.
What do you mean?
Well, you need to overpower the ambient lighting more so that the flash is contributing more of the light, so that there's not like if you look at the offhand, there's blurring because it's moving. And if you know her foot also, like you want to get rid of that. I think that
I don't think you drop the ISO. You have to pump it up, no?
no, I think it's drop the ISO and increase the flash power. I think that's what it is. Anyway, because you want to get rid of the ambient lighting so that there's not the blur. But whatever it is, you want to get rid of the blur. But anyway, the lights are where they are. You're where you are, but you definitely need to wait for a better moment than this. Like it's just, they both have intense expressions on their faces. That's all fine, but it's just the timing of it, like the space in between them, and that they're probably a little bit too far away from you. Like all those things are, and that they're not doing anything super athletic. These are all drawbacks.
I mean, the thing is, like, now what we've seen right now for the past, like for the two pictures, is that he can freeze action, so that's great. Kudos to Tim Ritter. But now you can do this, and you got to start thinking how to get a bit more creative and how to get a bit more just original and try different things. Why not? Because it's really like, this is so boring. Like if you're gonna put it for like the Titans basketball, parents thingy, and you want to give out the pictures to all the girls, it's fine. But if you want to kind of, get beyond that and start creating your own style and doing different things, I think it's very important that you're gonna have to do something a bit more interesting for a change, because it's just not interesting, And I mean, I'm sure it's not very easy to actually shoot in a very shitty condition like this, where there's no light and everything. But I think some things actually, can be done, and that's something that actually should be done for you to actually become a better sports photographer in general. No, you're okay with this?
No, I don't have anything to add. It's just
okay.
Yeah, it's challenging. Like shooting this kind of thing where you need lights and you can't constantly be moving them around, and they might not even be exactly where you would want them to be. It's all very difficult, but that's these seasons are long, and you can experiment with moving them around. There are different things that you can do. Like just in this picture, I can see that this is the kind of gym that has hoops on the side, and they raise them for when they pull the bleachers out. So you could even put the lights in a different place. Like you could get there a little bit earlier and clamp them to the supports for the other backboards, and just have a totally different look to the pictures. Like definitely a different angle to it. And these are the kind of things that you have to solve for, so that the pictures don't just end up looking like this. But even if this was the only place that you could set up the lights, you can still move around, and you can still wait for better moments, and you can still select, better moments from the ones that you get. So it's looking at these pictures, what you're communicating is, I know how to set up and shoot with strobes. That's not insignificant. It takes people time to get there. It took me time to get there when I used to shoot this kind of stuff. But you've gotten there, so let's push it a little bit more to get past this level, because this is not that high of a level.
And that really wraps it up for the 63rd training ground. I really, really apologize for my daughter kind of barging in here and there. I was kind of unexpected. I thought she was gonna be out of the apartment, and she wasn't. So I really, really apologize for that. She's cute, but her actions really are not. We cannot let that kind of stuff happen, especially in this kind of professional environment and this high production value and everything. If you kind of wondered over here, really randomly, this is a part of biglensfastshutter.com. which is a sports photography get better website, video, podcast, and everything else. So please go to biglensfastshutter.com. And if you already just talked about Patreon, it's patreon.com/BLFS if you want to pledge for us. And if you find what we do here very useful, very helpful, and just basically like making you a better sports photographer, as low as $10 a month, you can get a lot of things in. You can ask us questions, all that kind of stuff. We'll be answering that on podcasts as well. And lastly, like we've actually got a couple of people who want to do Critical Beatdown, which is a service that both Matt and I will take a look at your portfolio, up to 15 images, and we will create a video, which is probably like an hour long. So we'll go through every single picture, like we do in Training Ground, but more in detail. And it'll be like an hour, and that could actually be shown in public, or you can keep it private. It's really up to you. And that's $100 US. So that's about it from us. Have a great weekend. And that's it, though. That's really it. So thanks. I appreciate your participation. And we'll see you around relatively soon.